Hello, I want to share with you lessons from the playground today. I was out there with MJ, and let me share with some lessons I learned and some things you could use in basic persuasion that I learned from a two-year-old and a couple 4-year-olds. The first one was MJ was playing with 2 little trains, and some other little kid wanted the trains. And I'm a little confused on the sharing thing. I know what sharing means. I don't understand when a little kid should share and not share. I know it sounds kind of silly, but so MJ's playing with these 2 trains, and another kid wanted his trains. Well, MJ was playing with them. If the kid takes them, that's called stealing. That's not called sharing. So I was caught kind of what I would call a double bind. I said, well, do I give him the trains even though MJ was playing with them? Or if he was playing with the trains and MJ went up and took them, is that okay? So my stance was that MJ had the trains, therefore he can find another truck. Now, same thing as if he had the trains, MJ could go find another thing to play with. And so I explained this to this 4-year-old, not sure he understood 100%, but it made me feel better of my rules of sharing anyways. At least we set some parameters on the playground. Now, so MJ kept the trains, and the other kid was out of luck in this situation. Now, MJ put down the trains. Another kid is playing with the trains. MJ, about 5 minutes later, wants the trains back, so he loses it. He's like, I want the trains. He's screaming. He's trying to yank them out of the kid's hands. And so what do? Well, the other mom was telling her kid to share the trains, but I don't think the kid should have to share the trains. So I was like, MJ, he's got him now. You had him earlier. Train's gone. You play with something else. Because why would that kid have to give him up? So, long story short, though, what I was really thinking about is I was actually thinking in my head, is anybody looking who saw me with the earlier share story where, MJ kept the trains, the other kid was out of luck? And what it made me realize is that I had to be consistent with my actions from earlier because I did those publicly, that if I wasn't consistent with my actions, I would have looked like a hypocrite or just not looked, professional or good or whatever. And so that's consistency and commitment. If you can have somebody that has done an action in the past and now you got to keep them consistent and you can keep them committed to that action. So it's a great way to use in business. Great thing to use in sales is get somebody to remark of a time or that you remember of a time where they did something, and then transfer that same consistency and that commitment to that process at a time in the future. Now let me share with you the other thing though. Now what was going on in MJ's mind when the other kid had the trains? So MJ set down the trains, the other kid had the trains. What was MJ saying to himself? Now MJ has a ton of trains at home. They were at the playground. There's a ton of things to do. There's slides. There's climbing things. Whatever. There's other trucks were out, if you will. But MJ wanted these. Now why? So these particular trains are always scarce, meaning MJ never has them. He has his other ones at home, but he never has these ones. So now when they were still in his sight, but another person had them, they were scarce now. So they're always scarce, number one. Number two, he thought he could have them, but then another kid took them. So now that scarcity played in his mind that because they were scarce right now, he couldn't handle it. And we always kind of have that in our mind, is that there's a lot of things that we don't know. But as soon as we know we don't know them, or we know them, they're in our proximity. When they're gone, we want more of them. We can probably think of a lot of things, different foods that we crave. When we never knew about them, and then they came into our proximity, we tried them, then we want them more and more and more. So that idea of scarcity versus always scarce versus scarce now. And so a lot of things that are always scarce never bother us. But if we've had a taste of them and they become scarce now, we're like MJ, we start crying and whining and we lose it. Now he did it externally, we just do it internally. So just some kind of interesting behavior patterns, persuasive patterns that I've seen at work on the playground and utilized on the playground and utilized with me today. So these dang 2-year-olds sure teach me more lessons than maybe even in business or in my personal our personal life. So get people consistent and committed to their words and actions, and then use the idea of scarcity, of something that is not just always scarce, but where you give somebody a taste and then now it's scarce now, and what their mind does is goes into overdrive and saying, how do I get more of that? So some lessons from the playground from this morning.